Hey, Jay here. Feeling pretty good right now, actually. I just finished what's maybe the biggest musical project of my life. What's really cool is that it was a collaboration between myself and my amazing supporters over on Patreon. So if that's you, if you're one of my supporters, thank you so much. It means the world to me. So what I did is I put a call out. I asked for samples, one-shots, musical phrases, loops, textures, whatever people had. And the goal was to put it all together into some kind of song. And so that's what I did, actually. And so to do that, I used this here, the Akai MPC Live II. And it handled these samples with panache. It was actually really, really amazing to work with. I thought I was going to maybe need some other devices, but I did basically everything on this. Even did pre-mixing and effects, and really only at the last minute exported the stems into a DAW and then did the final touches, like mastering and a couple of vocal lines, as you'll soon see. So what I wanted to do today was just sort of walk through the process, show you the amazing contributions that my Patreon supporters sent to me, and what I turned them into in service of the song. Yeah, so without any further ado, let's get into it. So here are all the amazing contributions from my different Patreon supporters, and you can see there are quite a few here. It was really hard to sort of figure out where to start, but one drum line in particular really resonated with me. It was just dark and interesting, and had quite suggestive of a mood. So I just thought that was amazing, but of course it's so bottom end heavy that I couldn't imagine how I was going to fit it into a mix. So what I did is I just mixed out the bottom end. So I just used a high pass filter and ended up with this. Which still gives the flavor of the piece, but allows for a lot more instrumentation around it. The second thing that really struck me was easy to sort of imagine using, was this really cool guitar piece here. So there were lots of chords and even a little bit of a melody being played on top. Kristoffer did give me the high and low sections, the rhythm and the higher guitars, but actually I really liked it all integrated together. So I just took that and then actually chopped it up into a bunch of different pieces. So you can see that some of them are just the original pitch, but some of them are up, 3 semitones, or down 7 semitones, or up 2. And then when I had all the chopped and pitched samples, then I could start to come up with some chord progressions. So together that really interesting percussive line and the guitar really gave me my starting point for the song. Next, I knew I needed to create some drums. And so to create the drums, again, I didn't have a lot of one-shots. I mainly had loops, and I just liked this idea of a really loud and noisy loop like this. And trying to filter out some of the high-frequency content and turn it into something a little bit more mellow that matched up with what I had already. So I, from that, again, just chopped it up into a bunch of samples. Added a little bit of delay on the one cymbal there. And again, to get these cymbal type sounds, I was using high pass filters to filter out all the low end content. So you can see that this isn't actually a hi-hat sound, but when you get rid of most of the lower end content, you can really sort of draw out this hi-hat type quality. And then that left me with... So how about some bass, right? And to do the bass, someone sent me a really amazing bass sample here of them noodling on the bass. Just a really nice quality to it, really beautiful and round kind of sound and quite humanly played. So I used that as my starting point for the bass line. And using the MPC's 16 levels, I took a one shot from the bass. And that gave me my bass to play. As you can hear here. Okay, and now some synthy kind of stuff. So to create the first synth sound, I was sent this really awesome sort of modular tapey sounding recording here. I just loved the quality of it. And turned that into a synth using some effects here. As you can see, a channel strip to sort of take out some of the low-end content, delay, reverb, and ducking it just a little bit from the drums. And so once I have this, again, I could use 16 levels. It creates this really beautiful sort of bizarre synth sound. So to create another synth type sound, I used this CHONKER.BOT sample here that's amazing. It's a drone. Now what's great about the drone is that it does have that sort of pitch modulation where it dips below the actual pitch of the drone itself and creates a lot of character by doing that. So again, not too much cleaning up that I had to do with this one. Just added a few effects, and again a little bit of filtering, and then I ended up with this. Just a really nice spacey sort of sound. I left this sample really, really long on purpose because it has this beautiful tail at the end of it. Love it. Beautiful. Okay, and then next I got this really beautiful sample from Beazley, kind of harpish, that percussive melodic kind of sound to it. And so with that, I created an instrument that I could play a more complex and faster melody on with some delay and other things on it as well. Really, really nice. Now, a lot of the samples I got were these really beautiful long ambient pieces, so I knew I wanted to use something like that as well. And luckily I got this really beautiful Digitone ARPS sample from Lucas here. So nice. So I really didn't have to do too much to that. I just had to make sure the sample was going to last long enough, so I stretched it out to where it needed to be and changed the pitch to where it was appropriate for the song, and that gave me this. Really just gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. Now the last thing I wanted to add was kind of a solo section, and luckily I got this really super cool solo guitar kind of sound from Glib here. Now, I'll admit it, when I first heard this, I was like, this is gorgeous, and I have no idea how I'm going to use it. And then eventually I realized, oh, this is actually a complete solo. All I really have to do is use it as it is. And so that's in fact what I did. So I, of course, stretched out the sample so that it fit in the total space, fit in the 16 bars of a section, and then made sure that the pitch matched. So you can see that it's 6 semitones higher than it originally was, and that gives it this nice higher quality. So this is the way I normally work. I normally add lots and lots of different layers, and then what I do is I pair them all back to where I started, and then add things in as they feel right. You get the idea. So I had a verse here, and I was like, oh, I could use this for the entire song if I really wanted, but I knew I had a lot of other samples to use, and some of the other samples had a really different quality. And so what I thought I'd do was that I would create a chorus, and in that chorus, I would, of course, use a variety of new samples. Some holdovers from the previous verse, but then also some new samples as well, starting with the drums here. So to do the drums, I started with this really awesome, really gnarly sounding drum phrase. I just thought it sounded amazing. So I, again, just chopped it up into a bunch of samples, as you can see as I go through here. picked out my favorite ones. And thought that was cool. I ended up falling into 7 just because it was what worked really for this gnarly sounding kit. So with that part in 7 sort of set, I realized that everything else was going to have to match to that. I used that same guitar that I had before, and I used that to match to this new drum line in 7. And that gave me lots to work with. Next was to add some more percussion, some more like hi-hat type sounds. And so I started with this. What's cool about it is that it has a drone on top, so I could match the drone to the key of the song, which is what I did. And then create a variety of different cymbal type sounds. Even one really gnarly one. And that gave me altogether this higher end percussive sound. Which really matches very, very nicely with the main drums. I also changed up the bass, grabbed a different bass. This time I wanted something that was more synthy sounding. So I found this great one here from Justin. Now, what I really liked actually was the choice of notes was really smart, and what's cool is that the chord progression was the same one I was already thinking with the guitar. So I just basically took this idea and transposed it so that it would match the song itself. Really, really beautiful sound. I also knew I wanted to have something that would end up being sample reduced or bit crushed. So I wanted something that started with a lot of texture. So I chose this one here. Pulled out one little segment of it. And grabbing all these different octaves, or grabbing all these different parts. And as you can see, so here's in key. There's up 12 semitones, 24 semitones, so 2 octaves, and then 3. And then all together, when you use all 3 of them, really awesome stuff. Really cool sample to start with. I really like that. And then once again, I wanted to use another one of those really great ambient, longer kind of samples. So this one I grabbed from Nate here. It sounds really, really nice and tapey. And then it needed very, very little from me. I just brought it up 4 semitones to match the key of the song. And then that would give it this long, interesting droning quality that matches really, really nicely with the drums here, as you can hear. Love it. Yeah, then I just wanted one more last sound that would really give it an orchestral kind of flair, something really big. And to get that orchestral sound, I had this great piece that was apparently done on the noodler. Sounds really, really nice. What's nice about it is it has a variety of instrumentation and has that kind of bell-like quality to it, but also had a bunch of chords. And so I could use those different chords, pitch them correctly, and then create something that would match once again to the song. So here's what it sounds like. Love it. Beautiful. And so all together, that gave me a huge chorus. Now, while I was doing this, I started to realize, oh, I can hear a melody. I can hear singing over top of it. So I walked away at that point, grabbed my guitar and played through this verse and this chorus and tried to connect them together and see if I could create a song with lyrics on top of it. Started to feel out what the melody was, but also realized I was missing things. I was missing bridging sort of sections, the way guitar songs traditionally have. And so what I needed to do was create a pre-chorus, which I did. And also, so the pre-chorus links between the verse and the chorus. And then I needed a bridge to bridge back from the chorus into the verse. And so I created both of those, and those both gave me really interesting and unique opportunities to add in a few last samples. So let's take a look at some of those samples. So the bridge is quite simple. But there's actually an interesting role that the pre-chorus has to do. Namely, the verse kind of feels like it's in one key, and the chorus feels like it's in another key. And so what I really wanted to do was to have this transition. This moment gives me an opportunity to transition from like, this is the mood of the verse into this is the mood of the chorus. And so to create that mood, that uncomfortable buildup, I really used this second sample here. I love that sample. And so that sample comes from here. Really beautiful underwater kind of sound to it. Pitched it up to where it needed to be in key, and also sort of cut it to the right size. And so it actually kind of fights against the chord, as you can hear here. But what it's actually doing is transitioning the listener into the key of the chorus. Now, getting out of the chorus and back into the verse again is what I do with the bridge. And so in that transition, I just wanted another kind of large orchestral kind of quality. So I took this one here. Really interesting piece. So I took that piece and then pitched it up and, matched the chords to the song and created this interesting kind of weird sound. Once you put in the guitar and everything else, it matches it really well. So the next thing I did was mix it very quickly on the MPC, get a good sort of pre-mix going. And then I went into the song mode here and created a bunch of variations of the verses and choruses and sequenced it all together until I had an entire song from front to back. And then really nice on the MPC is it has this this export function, which you can just go into, and you can, of course, bounce out a stereo master, but you can also bounce out individual stems for each instrument, which is really fantastic. So that's what I did. I dumped those stems into the DAW and then recorded a few last parts. I recorded an acoustic guitar. And then I recorded a couple of lines of vocals as well. So after all that, dozens of samples, 20-something tracks, we've got a whole song. So just before we listen to that, I just want to take one last opportunity to say thank you to my Patreon supporters. This project has been a ton of fun, and it wouldn't have been possible without you. If you're not one of my supporters, but you're interested in sort of behind-the-scenes workflow, a really awesome community of engaged musicians, I would recommend you maybe check out my Patreon page and see if it's for you. All right, with all that, let's take a listen to the song. Thanks.
Glassy and black, a cloud of obsidian. Look to the zenith of the sky for your reflection.